Good day. Welcome to another episode of Throwing It Back To with Sean Farrell. I am Sean Farrell. God is great. all the time, God is great. Jesus Christ is Lord. Let's not waste no more time. Let's get right to it. So, the Chris Webber, Don Nelson feud, it was only a 1 year feud, okay? But there were some things that happened in Webber's rookie season that led him to being traded to Washington a few weeks into the 1994-1995 season, okay? So, Chris Webber initially wanted to play with Shaq. We all know that. But Chris Webber wasn't thrilled about going to Golden State because, number one, he wanted to play with Shaq. Number two, he was a Golden State Warriors second choice. The Warriors actually wanted Sean Bradley. Okay. So the Warriors had Bradley first. They had Bradley ranked first. Sprewell said heck it. Okay. And so third, he did not want to play center. Chris Webber did not want to play center. Okay. And so those three things were the spark, I guess you should say. The Warriors actually drafted Penny Hardaway, but knowing that they had Latrell Sprewell and Tim Hardaway, who eventually got injured before the 1993-1994 season and missed the whole season, traded him to Orlando for Chris Webber. And so Chris Webber signed a 15-year, $74 million deal with the Warriors. In the case you didn't hear that, let me say it again. Chris Webber signed a 15-year, $74 million deal with the Golden State Warriors, okay? Which had a opt-out after one season, okay? That should have told you something right there. We all know Chris Webber's famous behind-the-back dunk on Charles Barkley that he had. But during the season, Chris Webber reportedly went to the owner and said, if you don't protect me from Coach Nelson, this is what he told the Warriors owner, if you don't protect me from Coach Nelson, I will use my opt-out clause, okay? And so Don Nelson was reportedly telling other Warriors players that Webber's play was costing the team games, okay? That's what was reported. It was also reported that Don Nelson gathered all the Warriors guards and let them know that Chris Webber's play was also costing them games as well. So I guess Latrell Sprewell, who was a guard, Keith Jennings, who was a guard, Avery Johnson, who was a guard, okay? I guess they gathered all those guards around and say, hey, Avery, hey, Keith, hey, Latrell, this guy right here, he's costing us games. And so there was a moment when the Golden State Warriors were playing the Hornets and were playing against the Charlotte Hornets. And Chris Webber threw a behind-the-back pass that went out of bounds, and Don Nelson benched him, okay? And it was reported that Don Nelson said all year, why did we even draft you? He would it was reported that Don Nelson said that to Chris Webber, okay? And so you had two camps, okay? You had the Chris Webber camp. You had the Chris Webber camp over here. Then you had the Don Nelson camp over here, okay? And Coach Nelson's camp was Avery Johnson and Tim Hardaway. Hardaway was quoted as saying, "It's nothing but constructive criticism. If you can't take constructive criticism, then don't play a game." Okay. So that was from Tim Hardaway, who again was out for the entire year with a knee injury. Then on Team Webber, you had Latrell Sprewell and Billy Owens, who complained about Coach Nelson's coaching style. And I believe he was reportedly benched by Coach Nelson, if I'm not mistaken. Despite all this, they still went, 15-32 in the regular season. They were a 6th seed in the playoffs. It was just unfortunate they ran into the Phoenix Suns at the time. Okay. Coming off Webber's rookie season, 1995 looked pretty promising for the Golden State Warriors. Okay. But things went. Lord have mercy. I do not know what is going on, y'all. Yeah. But 1995 looked to be pretty promising. You had Chris Webber, you had Hardaway coming back, you had Latrell Sprewell, and you also had Chris Mullin as well. But Webber held out. But Webber, I think it was believed that Chris Webber held out. Okay. If I'm mistaken. It was said that he held out. And the Warriors made an early season trade. Okay. They made an early season trade when they traded Billy Owens to the Miami Heat. Who did the Miami Heat get back? Who did Miami Heat get back? Can't remember who they got back. But yeah, they traded Billy Owens to the Heat, and eventually traded Webber to the Bullets for Tom Gugliotta. The Bullets ended up going 21-61 that year. Warriors were a wee bit better, but not by all that much. They went 30-52 that whole year. And Webber, before he left, said, "I have no love for Don Nelson. This is all his doing and no one else's." Okay. So team morale was low, and it was reflected by the Warriors' 14-31 record at the All-Star break, and Coach Nelson actually resigned. Okay. And so after they made the playoffs in 1994, they wouldn't return to the playoffs again for another 12 to 13 years, coming in 2007. Okay. That's when they knocked off the top-ranked Dallas Mavericks in 6 games. Okay. And Chris Webber actually went back to the Warriors at that time. He went back to the Warriors. Chris Mullin was the GM. Okay. And Don Nelson was back coaching the Warriors, believe it or not. Yes. It was Coach Don Nelson who was coaching the new school Warriors. Okay. So and Don Nelson admitted that it was a rocky relationship with Chris Webber. I also remember Chris Webber reading somewhere where Chris Webber said, where it was initially thought that Chris Webber wasn't concerned about how tough Coach Nelson could be. Okay. Chris Webber said he had a high school coach. He had a high school coach who was very, very tough. And so then I can't remember where I read it. I read it in an article, but it said so that high school coach was tougher than Coach Don Nelson. Yeah, the pros are a different monster. The pros are a much different monster than high school. So, yeah, so. And if I just, and I can't help but think, what if Webber was able to smooth things out with Coach Nelson? Think where the 1995 Warriors would be. Think where the 1994-95 Warriors, Golden State Warriors, would be. Okay, if Chris Webber and Don Nelson were able to smooth things over, you would have had Sprewell, Webber, Mullin, Hardaway. Okay, you would have had them. And if they were together, okay, they would have challenged the Rockets. They would have challenged the Spurs. Okay, they would have challenged the Rockets. They would have challenged the Spurs. And if they had stayed together for a few more years, okay, if that core had stayed together for a few more years, they would have challenged not only the Rockets and the Spurs, but they also would have challenged the Sonics, the Magic, the Bulls, okay? They would have challenged all those teams. Utah, they would have been right in the mix with all those teams, okay? They would have been in the mix with all those teams for the next couple of years. So they would have been mentioned in the same breath as Chicago, San Antonio, Houston, Utah, Orlando, and to a lesser degree, the New York Knicks. Okay. But yeah, if that team had stayed together for a few years, they probably would have been championship contenders. Not saying they would have won one, but hey. But we'll never know. Never know. All right, that's it. That's all for throwing it back to with Sean Farrell. I am Sean Farrell. Peace out. May God bless you all. Jesus Christ is Lord. I'm out of here. See y'all on the next one.